The sun rose over the dusty Roman encampment as a young man stood in polished armor, watching the light glint off his sword and thinking of a faraway land. That young man was Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, though the name Africanus came later. Born around 236 BCE into one of Rome's great patrician houses. His story begins not with triumph, but with the kind of grief and fear that shapes the hardest steel. His father, also Publius Cornelius Scipio, and his uncle fell fighting in Spain during Rome's struggle with Carthage. Historians believe that the loss of his father and uncle in conflicts that had staggered Rome left the young Scipio determined to turn disaster into glory. Rome at the time was trembling. The formidable general Hannibal Barca of Carthage had invaded Italy, crossing the Alps with elephants, and achieved horrific victories at places like the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE. Rome's armies lay broken. Into that storm stepped Scipio, still young, still untested. As a military tribune, he survived the ruin at Cannae, rallying survivors and refusing to let despondence sweep away the Roman spirit. But the decisive chapter of his story began when Rome, desperate and reactive for years, finally shifted to the offensive. Scipio volunteered, or more accurately, offered himself, to take an army to Spain in 210 BCE. Though he lacked the formal prerequisites for command, the Senate granted him extraordinary powers, a testament to the crisis Rome faced and the faith placed in the scion of the Cornelii. In Spain, the young Scipio showed flashes of boldness and innovation. From his base at Tarraco, he undertook a daring assault on the Carthaginian stronghold of New Carthage, modern Cartagena. He reportedly exploited tidal variation. Fishermen told him the lagoon's water receded in the afternoon, exposing an accessible wall. Using that knowledge, he struck swiftly, taking the city and acquiring its mines, harbor, and hostages. The blow shattered Carthaginian dominance in Spain, but Scipio did not rest on that victory. In 208 BCE, he confronted the Carthaginian commander Hasdrubal Barca at Baecula. And though Hasdrubal escaped to Italy, the campaign in Spain had shifted irreversibly in Rome's favor. Then in 206 BCE came the decisive Battle of Ilipa. After days of maneuvering and feints, Scipio attacked at dawn with his veteran Romans on the wings, and his Spanish allies holding the center, catching the Carthaginians off guard. The enemy forces were routed. Carthage lost its grip on Spain. With Spain secured, Scipio turned his gaze to Africa, to strike at Rome's arch-enemy in its own backyard. Workshops at Rome buzzed with debate. Some senators argued that the time was not right, that Italy was still unsafe while Hannibal lurked. But Scipio succeeded in persuading the Senate, and in 204 BCE, he landed in Africa with a bold plan to carry the war to the enemy's homeland. He besieged Utica, formed an alliance with the Numidian prince Massinissa, and struck at Carthage's reinforcements. In 203 BCE, he defeated the combined Carthaginian-Numidian army at the Great Plains, Bagradas, with a double flanking maneuver so effective that Carthage's power was broken. Then came the crowning moment, 202 BCE, the Battle of Zama. On ground chosen by Hannibal himself, Scipio met him in open combat. The key to victory lay in his clever adjustment of the Roman formation to blunt the Carthaginian elephants, and in the timely intervention of Massinissa's cavalry sweeping round the enemy's flank. Hannibal's army collapsed. Carthage sued for peace. With that, the Second Punic War ended, Rome's greatest danger subdued. Scipio was awarded the agnomen Africanus to commemorate his conquest of Africa. This was more than a military victory, it was transformation. The man who had escaped from Cannae now stood at the summit of Roman arms, a hero of the Republic. His tactics, flexible formations, integration of allied troops, deep strategic planning marked a shift in Roman warfare. According to contemporary accounts, and as later historians gather, he inspired his men with confidence and imbued the campaign with energy. Some even believed he enjoyed divine favor. Legend held that he dreamt of the god Neptune before his assault on New Carthage, and that he communed with Jupiter on the Capitol at night. Yet Scipio's story does not end with triumph alone. There is a quieter, darker, more human side. In Rome's political arena, he faced envy and mistrust. The very success that elevated him painted a target on his back. Some senators distrusted his Greek-leaning sympathies. He embraced Hellenic culture and welcomed Greek philosophers and historians at his table in an age when many Roman conservatives resisted such influences. He also stood at a political crossroads. Having defeated Rome's greatest enemy, the question remained, what to do with that victory? Should Rome annex more, rule firmly, exploit conquered peoples, or offer clemency, alliance, integration? Scipio inclined toward alliance, toward using Rome's power but also promoting civilization. That path earned him both admiration and antagonism. His handling of the peace terms with Carthage was generous by some reports, and that generosity became a focal point for political opponents arguing that he had been too soft. In 199 BCE, he became censor, a powerful office, and again in 194 BCE, he held the consulship. But even as his fame soared, he began to withdraw from political life. In about 187 BCE, he and his brother were accused of accepting bribes linked to the Roman Seleucid War. Though the charge lacked conclusive proof, the trial underscored his vulnerable position. War hero turned politician. Disillusioned with Rome's suspicions and the corrosive nature of political rivalry, Scipio retired to his estate at Laternum in Campania. He died around 183 BCE. From battlefield to estate, from glory to withdrawal, Scipio's life traces the arc of a hero who rose above disaster and steered his city through crisis. He defeated Rome's greatest threat, Hannibal, arguably the greatest general of his age, and in doing so ensured that Rome would no longer be on the defensive, but the master of the Western Mediterranean. His legacy endured. For centuries, Romans looked back to him as the archetype of the general statesman. Even Renaissance humanists revived his story, casting him as the standard of virtue, courage, and enlightened leadership. But ask not only about his victories, ask also about how he led, how he won the trust of his troops, how he adapted to conditions, how he refused to accept stagnation, even when all seemed lost. As a young officer, he had slipped from the trap at Africanus. As an innovator, he had exploited tides at New Carthage. As a strategist, he had outfoxed Carthage in Spain. As a bold commander, he had crossed into Africa and struck the final blow at Zama. Through all this, he changed Rome's role in the world. No longer merely an Italian republic fighting an invader on its soil, Rome became an external power, shaping distant lands. That transformation owes much to him. And yet there remains the sobering end, a man who conquered, then bowed out, a hero reviled by some at home, despite the lives he saved, a victor whose own city could not always embrace him. Perhaps that is the fate of those who rise so high, caught between being worshipped and being feared. Scipio Africanus shows us that even the greatest victories leave scars. Even heroes must reckon with politics, and even a republic must choose how to treat its champions. In the dusk of his life, at his villa in Laternum, Scipio reflects not on trophies, but on what he has done. He has saved Rome, yes, but has Rome changed for the better? The armies he led, the foes he conquered, the alliances he crafted, they all point toward a new order, a Roman future that he glimpsed. According to contemporary accounts and later tradition, he said little, smiled less, and kept his counsel. He did not chase endless power. Instead, he left the stage, letting others carve the future. And so we remember him. Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, the general who defeated Rome's greatest foe, changed the fate of a republic, and lived long enough to see the peace for which he fought. His story is not only of war, but of leadership, innovation, and legacy. The echoes of his actions ripple through history, a testament that sometimes one man, at the right time, with the right vision, can alter the course of nations.